All right, players looking at opening hands. We are going to game 3 here. This will be the decider for these players. Kevin Jones has mulligan, so he's on a 6-card hand. Looks like Kevin did win game 2 as Ryan's going to start us off with an Overgrown Tomb tapped. No discard spell to start things.
Yeah, it's good news for Kevin. After that mulligan, the worst thing in the world is for you to get hit with an Inquisition of Kozilek or a Thoughtseize.
Jones is going to start with Watery Grave. He'll shock to 18, as the Death Shadow deck is wont to do. And he does have a discard spell. Here's Inquisition of Kozilek. Going to look at a hand of Kalias, Trader of Get, Liliana of the Veil, Tarmogoyf, Abrupt Decay, Forest, and a Mountain.
Yeah, luckily for Kevin, Ryan doesn't actually have access to double black yet, which means Liliana and Kalidas are both turned off for now. Kevin, I think, decides to take that Tarmogoyf because it is the most threatening thing that can be played over the next turn. But if that Liliana of the Veil resolves, it's really bad news for Death Shadow. Liliana of the Veil and the mirror matches for a while were a huge problem for me when I was playing the archetype a lot.
And this is actually the reason you see a lot of Jund players not even play the Mountain. You specifically like it to fetch up against the burn deck, but it can be really awkward on your mana base otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. And we're seeing here this Mountain isn't casting a single card in his hand. Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Kalidas, and Liliana of the Veil, all stranded.
Forest is the turn 2 for Rapkowicz. Back on Jones' side, see what he can add. Takes a little bit for the Shadow deck to get threats online.
Yeah, you also kind of want to wait until a certain point in the game where you've either taken the majority of their threats, or you have enough, or taken the majority of their answers, or have enough threats to overload those answers. If Kevin plays out something like I don't know, any sort of creature this turn, if you like, is able to Thought Scour, Bobble into Gurmag Angler or whatever, there's a good chance it's just going to die. So he's going to be looking to play a few card manipulation spells, looking for a little more discard or things like Stubborn Denial to make sure he has a bit of protection from that Liliana of the Veil.
He'll start with the Scalding Tarn, fetching up another Watery Grave untapped, falling to 15. A little outside of Death Shadow range still, but as you mentioned, you don't really want to walk into Liliana of the Veil just yet.
Yep.
Serum Visions is where he'll start for spells. Try to shape up that hand to fight against what he knows about.
Now, the weird thing about this matchup, that's not actually being showcased in this game, is that generally both players end up drawing quite a few discard spells each, and at the end of all of the discard spells, usually the players are left with 1 or 2 cards plus the top of their deck to work with. I think that generally favors the Grixis Death Shadow deck, but it looks like Kevin actually just has all the discard spells in this game so far, and this game is really just being sculpted by him in such a way where he's going to be able to take advantage of all of this information and a lack of the right answer or threat from Ryan in the next few turns.
Yeah, Jones scries both to the top with the Serum Visions, then follows up with Thoughtseize. He follows a 13. The pickup from Rapkowicz was an Assassin's Trophy, though Jones is going to reach for that Liliana of the Veil. Back over on Rapkowitz's side, Dark Confidant was the draw. That's the play for the turn. Plays the Mountain as well. We'll go back to Kevin Jones.
Now Kevin has to find an answer to this Dark Confidant, or else it threatens to run away with the game. With Ryan at 20, he has a lot of life to work with, not under any pressure, and has multiple answers in hand for any threats that Kevin could play. So he really needs a Lightning Bolt, a Fatal Push, or even something like Kolaghan's Command here could take care of this Dark Confidant pretty easily.
Yeah, long term, he has to navigate through these multiple removal spells, but in the short term, you're right, he has to get this Bob off the table. He'll shock for a Blood Crypt. He's at 11. That's red mana. Could be a Lightning Bolt. Could be a Kolaghan's Command.
Yep, I mean, he's unlocking red mana here for the first time this game. Wow.
Yeah, it is neither of those things. It's Snapcaster Mage for Thoughtseize. Get another look at that removal spell heavy hand. Jones will fall to 9, takes the Kalidas, leaves the kind of redundant duo of Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay. But Rapkowicz will be able to untap with that Dark Confidant now.
He has a red card in hand. Is it Temur Battle Rage?
Well, we'll find out pretty soon, I'm sure, as Rapkowicz reveals Inquisition of Kozilek to his Dark Confidant. He'll fall to 19. Looks like Bloodbraid Elf was the draw for turn, though no 4th land just yet.
Yeah, Ryan's going to fall to 19 from this Dark Confidant, revealing that Inquisition of Kozilek. And then we're going to get to see what Kevin Jones' hand is, getting maximum punished here for not taking care of that Dark Confidant immediately.
Yeah, it was Lightning Bolt Gurmag Angler. Steam Vent's the last card for Jones. Lightning Bolt stripped away with the Inquisition. Just Angler, Steam Vents as leftovers.
Yeah, now he's in top deck mode to find an answer to this Dark Confidant. If he doesn't find it this turn, that means that Dark Confidant has replaced itself, traded with a removal spell at some point, and drawn 2 cards.
Yeah, Jones knew what he was drawing from that Serum Visions. Here's Thought Scours where he's going to start his turn. So pretty stock graveyard for the Gurmag Angler, but that's pretty easily answered by the cards he already knows about. He'll shock off a Steam Vents and fall to 7. Here's a Snapcaster Mage. All right, that is a good one. He'll Lightning Bolt the Dark Confidant now.
Yeah, so the damage not quite done here for Ryan. He did get to replace the Dark Confidant, but Kevin here with just Gurmag Angler left in hand, 7 life to work with. If Ryan ever draws a land for that Bloodbraid Elf, it could turn things around quickly, but another awkward draw with Liliana the Veil and not enough black mana to cast it.
Yikes. Jones did connect for 2 with that first Snapcaster Mage. Rapkowicz at 17, but yeah, a hand that really limits him on what he's able to do. A 4th mana source untapped on the following turn could maybe break this game wide open. He still has that Gurmag Angler covered with this Assassin's Trophy. Can use the Abrupt Decay to kill one of the Snapcaster Mages. He's fine in the short term, but Jones does have some draws that can really shape up his position.
Yeah, here I think Kevin's main priority is to force Ryan to use that Abrupt Decay on one of these Snapcaster Mages, so that would unlock a Death Shadow later on. If this gets hit mid-combat here, then, ooh, wow.
Yeah, so it's actually end step. So what had happened is Jones spent his turn, attack with the Snapcaster Mages. Rapkowicz did fall to 13, and then end step, Abrupt Decay is one of the Snapcaster Mages when Jones does not deploy the Gurmag Angler. Ooh, and another awkward draw for Rapkowicz. It's not the worst possible, but Blackcleave Cliffs tapped is the 4th mana source.
Yeah, it's actually quite good when he's still at 13 life here. He's not getting overly punished for it, which is good news for him, and it does unlock his hand next turn, giving him not only the 4th mana for Bloodbraid Elf and Kalitas Trader of Get, but also the 2nd black for Liliana of the Veil.
Draw step for Kevin Jones was Mistress Bauble. It takes a look at the top card of his deck and attacks with the Snapcaster Mage. Rapkowicz at 11. Ooh, and here's a Death Shadow that he picked up. That's the play for Jones.
Yeah, and really good news for Jones. That Abrupt Decay being cast last turn means that Ryan's only likely going to be able to answer one of these big threats and not both.
And here is that Gurmag Angler. Leaves behind Snapcaster Mage, Serum Visions, Inquisition, a Kozilek in his graveyard, as well as a Scalding Tarn. Rapkowicz is going to fire off that Assassin's Trophy on the Angler here.
Yeah, so he's going to go get an untapped land of his choosing. I believe he has access to an island or a swamp, and he still has a draw effect. But he chooses not to go get the land with the Assassin Trophy, valuing that card he saw on top of Mistress of Bauble higher than the free land.
Yeah, you saw him confirm whether or not he had to actually search. As you said, he knew that card and he wanted it. Uses that Bauble trigger to draw. Rapkowicz picks up Forest for turn. That doesn't do too much, so he's going to play that and cast Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah, digging here for some way to interact with that Death Shadow in a positive way. I don't think Scavenging Ooze is going to be enough to do it.
Yeah, as mentioned, Scavenging Ooze is the Cascade. Really would have liked to have hit a Fatal Push for that Death Shadow. Maybe a Maelstrom Pulse, something of that nature.
And it's interesting to see Ryan actually put significant value on that Death Shadow by casting Bloodbraid Elf here instead of these other really powerful cards in hand. You know, he could have cast Liliana the Veil. He could have cast Kalitas Trader of Get. Instead chose to try to find an answer in a hurry with that Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah, Liliana kind of checked by the Snapcaster Mage, but the Bloodbraid Elf didn't really pan out. This is not terrible.
No.
Scavenging Ooze does do some things like turn off Snapcaster Mages. There's a couple creatures in his own graveyard, the Dark Confidant, the Kalitas.
Yeah, this is a lot about turning the tables here, and there's a chance that even if this Death Shadow attacks for 6 damage, that's not putting Ryan into lethal burn range. A Temur Battle Rage will do it, but the odds of that being in Kevin's deck is very low. If I'm Ryan here, I'm soaking this 6-point swing. I'm going to eat some stuff out of the graveyard and hope I'm going to kill the Snapcaster Mage and maybe another blocker and threaten lethal on the follow-up.
Rapkowicz is going to pay respect to the Temur Battle Rage. He throws the Bloodbraid Elf under the Death Shadow bus. That's going to be eaten, and the follow-up for Jones is Liliana, the Last Hope.
Yeah, and if he chooses to minus the Liliana He puts 2 more cards in his graveyard, puts him up to 6. Besides the Gurmag Angler, can get back Gurmag Angler and cast it for 1 mana.
He minuses, currently facing a 1 green mana plus Scavenging Ooze. He already has Gurmag Angler plus Snapcaster Mage in his graveyard, so he'll be able to get one of these creatures back, or possibly flip over something else off the top of the deck.
Right, and Ryan here, I think, if he takes Snapcaster Mage, that means Gurmag Angler can't be cast this turn, but it also means that Kevin won't have access to a Snapcaster Mage in the future. But chooses to take the Gurmag Angler, valuing that large body that is particularly tough for the Jund deck to punch through because it doesn't die to Fatal Push, which is their premier removal spell.
Yeah, Rapkowicz goes up to 12. Jones will pick up that Snapcaster Mage after flipping over 2 discard spells to Liliana. Adds Bloodstain Mire and passes back. Snapcaster Mage the only card in hand. Rapkowicz mostly fine with that, as Scavenging Ooze can disrupt the spell you want to flash back.
Yes, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Kevin here just play a naked Snapcaster Mage during the end step. All Ryan has to do effectively is leave 1 green mana up to turn off that Snapcaster Mage, and can use basically the rest of his mana from here to the end of time. And that extra body on the battlefield might be enough to help fight through something like Liliana of the Veil later on down the line.
Looks like Rapkowicz has a choice of 2 3-mana spells of this turn. He's been holding on to that Liliana of the Veil, and I believe Kolaghan's Command was the draw.
That's quite a good one.
Yeah. Has a 2-mana creature in Dark Confidant in his graveyard if he just wants to pick that up. Could also shock something, be it the Liliana of the Veil or the Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I'm also pretty confident he has a Tarmogoyf that was taken by an Inquisition of Kozilek on the first turn. So the turn here of destroy your Liliana of the Last Hope and get back my Tarmogoyf and cast it is a pretty good turn.
He's going to go with Liliana of the Veil, leaving up 2 green mana for that Scavenging Ooze. Couple activations there. He'll Edict. Jones chooses his worst creature. Snapcaster Mage is going to hit the bin.
Yeah, this is a pretty sweet play by Ryan. He's going to probably send the Scavenging Ooze at the Liliana of the Veil, which is effectively going to force Kevin, if he wants to keep it around, to chump block. But that is going to leave the Liliana of the Veil on the other side of the table vulnerable from the attack of Snapcaster Mage, if Kevin so chooses to use it that way.
Rapkowicz is thinking about if he wants to attack, who he wants to attack, decides that he's on no attacks, passes back to Jones. Do want to be mindful of navigating life totals against the Death Shadow deck. The Liliana of the Last Hope not able to -2 currently. It can shrink the Ooze, though, so there was some incentive to attack. But you saw earlier, he did make that chump block with his Bloodbraid Elf. He's concerned about this Death Shadow kind of killing him out of nowhere. Jones is at 7. It does have an uncracked fetch land, so the Shadow can hit really hard, and there are some top decks that could really make things lethal this turn. He'll activate Liliana of the Last Hope on Scavenging Ooze, then attack with the Shadow, currently a 6/6.
Yeah, and he has to be careful on how much damage he actually takes because that Scavenging Ooze has a lot of food to eat right now.
Rapkowicz just going to take that, fall to 6, and then activate the Scavenging Ooze. He'll exile Snapcaster Mage from Jones' graveyard, go up to 7.
Yeah, and all sorceries here on Kevin Jones' side. Nothing to actually flashback with Snapcaster Mage. So Ryan's able to eat his own creature using all of his mana this turn without much fear.
Yep, exiles his own Dark Confidant. Scavenging goes up to a 5/5. Rapkowicz up to 8 life.
Now, there are 2 creatures in the graveyard, I believe, that he could choose to eat with Scavenging Ooze and present a lethal threat.
He'll start by plussing Liliana. He discards Tarmogoyf. Jones discards Island. Still knows that Snapcaster Mage is the leftover. Here's an attack with Scavenging Ooze. As you mentioned, there's 2 creatures in the graveyard. This could be lethal.
Yeah, Kevin here actually just is forced to play the Snapcaster Mage and hope that he can jump block. If Ryan actually has a removal spell here that costs 2-3 mana, he can still pump the Scavenging Ooze by 2 and finish off the game.
Well, back up a second. I guess the Ooze is actually a 3/4 currently because of the Liliana.
Oh, yes.
That changes the equation on this turn.
My apologies. So 3, 4, 5, 6. I think he's actually short of lethal then. There are only 3 creatures on Ryan's side and no creatures on Kevin's side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Kevin would still want to be mindful of a lightning bolt, something like that.
Sure, and with the body of Snapcaster effectively the only relevant part here, thanks to that Scavenging Ooze, playing it here to make sure he doesn't die to the lightning bolt is pretty important.
Jones flashes in the Snapcaster Mage here, as you mentioned before, just sorceries in the graveyard. That's a 2-1. Not to mention that Scavenging Ooze could just check an instant anyway. We'll see if Rapkowicz has anything to say about that before blockers. He did discard Tarmogoyf to Liliana of the Veil when he has 5 mana on tap. That suggests that he had some kind of plan for this.
Yeah, it's possible that he just wanted to get another creature in the yard for food for Scavenging Ooze, but the last card in his hand could be fairly expensive.
I want to say that I saw it and it was Kolaghan's command at some point. Jones does get the chump block with the Snapcaster Mage here. We'll see exactly what Rapkowicz wants to do here post-combat. It was Kolaghan's command.
All right, a deal 2 on the Liliana and get back Tarmogoyf and then cast it. It's a pretty big deal here. Leaves Kevin with just the Death Shadow versus Tarmogoyf, Ooze, and a Liliana. However, if he peels a removal spell for this Tarmogoyf, a Fatal Push, something of that nature, he can crack that fetch land, find his last shock land, deal himself some damage, and attack for 9 points next turn.
Luckily for Rapkowicz, the Goyf is outside of Dismember range, so it has to be Fatal Push. If Jones has a Terminate, it has to be actual hard removal. Instant sorcery, creature, Planeswalker land.
Yeah, 5/6 is a pretty big deal here. Turning off those Dismembers is huge, as those are the alternate removal spell that Kevin has chosen to play outside of the normal Fatal Push slot.
So Jones draws for turn. Looks like no action before combat. He's thinking about sending that Death Shadow.
Now, if he did draw Dismember, he actually has the window here to fetch, take some damage, but also has the Dismember ready for that 5/5 Scavenging Ooze.
You saw him attack there. Rapkowicz just chump blocked with the Tarmogoyf. No follow-up from Jones. Going back to Rapkowicz. He'll use the Edict on the Death Shadow. -2 on the Liliana. It hits the graveyard. Here's an attack for... this is 3 again with the Scavenging Ooze. No, the Liliana was taken care of, so this is 5 this time. Activation on the Ooze. Exiles his own Kalidas. Activates again. Third activation. Ooze up to a 7/7. Rapkowicz up to 11. And Jones has no action. 7/7 Ooze connects. And Ryan Rapkowicz, a 2-1 winner with Jund over Kevin Jones on Grixis Death Shadow. He's going to be 3-0 in the Modern Open here at SCG Worcester.